Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to our glorification of Srīmad Bhāgavatam. Today we are reading from Canto 2, Chapter 1, the first step in God realization, and we will continue our talk on text. So we'll start our talk on text 15. Let's recite the Mangalacharan and invoke the blessings of all our Guru Vrinda. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Utpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Lita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So Canto 2, Chapter 1, the first step in God realization, and we are reading from text 15. Antakale tu purusha Agate gata sadvasaha Chindayat ashanga sastrena Spriham dehenu yechtama Antakale tu purusha Agate gata sadvasaha Chindayat ashanga sastrena Spriham dehenu yechatam. Antakale tu purusha. Agate gata sadvasaha. Chindayat ashanga shastrena. Spriham dehenu chechadam.
Antakale tu purusha.
Antakale tu purusha.
Agate gata sadvasaha.
Agate gata sadvasaha.
Chindayat sanga shastrena.
Chindayat ashanga shastrena.
Spriham dehenu yechatam.
Spriham dehenu yechatam. Antakale tu purusha. Agate gata sadvasaha. Chindayat ashanga shastrena. Spriham dehenu yechatam. What did you do to try? Antakale tu purusha. Agate gata sadvasaha. Chindayat ashanga shastrena. Spriham dehenu yechatam. Antakale. At the last stage of life. Tu. But. Purushaha. A person. Agate. Having arrived. Gata sadvasaha. Without any fear of death. Chindayat. Must cut off. Asanga. Non-attachment. Shastrena. By the weapon of. Spriham. All desires. Dehe. In the matter of material tabernacle. Anu. Pertaining. Ye. All that. Cha. Also. Tam. Them. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. Purport. The foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making a permanent settlement in this world. Although it is settled the fact, then one has to give up everything here that has been created by the valuable human energy. Great statesmen, scientists, philosophers, etc., who are foolish without any information of the spirit soul, think that is the life of a few years only is all in all, and that there is nothing more after that. This poor fund of knowledge, even in the so-called darkness circle of the world, is killing the vitality of human energy, and the awful results is being keenly felt. And yet the foolish materialistic men do not care about what is going to happen in the next life. The preliminary instruction in Bhagavad Gita is that one should know the identity of the individual living entity is not lost even after the end of this present body, which is nothing but the outward dress only. As one changes old garment, so the individual living being also changes his body, and this change of body is called death. Death is therefore process of changing a body at the end of the duration of the present life. An intelligent person must be prepared for this and must try to have the best type of body in the next life. The best type of body is a spiritual body, which is obtained by those who go back to the kingdom of Godhead or enter in the realm of Brahman. In the second chapter of Canto, this matter will be broadly discussed. But as far as the change of body is concerned, one must prepare now for the next life. Foolish people attach more importance to the present temporary life and thus foolish leaders make appeals to the body and the bodily relation. The bodily relation extends not only to this body but also to the family members, wife, children, society, country, and so many other things which end at the end of this life. After the death, one forgets everything about the present bodily relations. We have little experience of this at night when we go to sleep. While sleeping, we forget everything about this body and bodily relations, although this forgetfulness is a temporary situation for only few hours. Death is nothing but a sleeping for a few months in order to develop another term of bodily engagement, which are awarded by the law of nature according to our aspiration. Therefore, one has to only change the aspiration during the course of present body. And for this, there is a need of a training in the current human duration of life. I read it again. Therefore, one has to change the aspiration during the course of this present body. And for this, there is a need of a training in the current duration of human life. This training can begin at any stage of life or even a few seconds before death. But the usual procedure is for one to get the training from very early life, from the stage of brahmacharya, and gradually progress to grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa order of life. The institution which gives such training is called varnashrama dharma, and or the system of sanatana dharma, the best procedure of marking of the human life perfect. One is therefore required to give up attachment to the family or social or a political life just at the age of 50 years. If not earlier, then training in the vanaprastha and sannyasa ashrama is given for the preparation of next life. Foolish materialists, in the garb of the leaders of the people in general, stick to the family affairs without attempting to cut off the relations with them, and thus they become victims of the natures of law and get gross bodies again according to their work. Such foolish leaders may have some respects from the people at the end of life, but that does not mean that such leaders will be immune to the natural laws under which everyone is tightly bound by the hand and feet. The best thing is therefore that everyone voluntarily give up family relations by transferring the attachment from the body, from the family, society, country, and everything thereof to the devotional service of the Lord. It is stated herein that one should give up all desires of family attachment. One must have a chance for a better desires. Otherwise, there is no chance of giving up such morbid desires. Desire is the concomitant factor of the living entity. The living entity is eternal, and therefore his desires, which are natural for the living being, are also eternal. One cannot therefore stop desiring, but the subject matter of desires can be changed. Reading again, one cannot therefore stop desiring, but the subject matter of the desires can be changed. So one must develop the desires for returning home back to Godhead, and automatically the desire of material gain, material honor, material popularity will diminish in proportion to the development of devotional service. A living being is meant for the service activities, and his desires are centered around such service attitude. Being free from top executive head to the state or down to the insignificant pauper in the street, all are rendering some sort of service to others. The perfection of such service attitude is only attained simply by transferring the desire of service from the matter to spirit or from Satan to God. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. What a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada. And quite straightforward, giving us or showing us the mirror basically. I was listening to a class by His Holiness Keshav Maharaj, and he gave an example. He shared his pastime with His Holiness Kadam Kanan Maharaj. So Kadam Kanan Maharaj was telling Keshav Maharaj that he likes musical chair very much. And then Maharaj gave kind of a deep purport what that musical chair means. In musical chair, what happens is that as the music runs, whoever is, all the players, they run. And the music stops, one person loses the chair. And at the end, only one person remains. So Maharaj compared this with his life, and Maharaj said that our life is like a musical chair. Music runs and thing changes. People run, the seat changes. And then again music run, one of the person loses the seat. And at the end, music stops and the death comes. And if we apply that understanding to, or if we apply this analogy to the Parikshit Maharajas, then that is the very example that Parikshit Maharaj's life changes in 7 days, and he was able to give up everything in 7 days because he was detached. He was practicing spirituality from his very early age, and that leaves a lot of learning with us. So let's just go back to the text again, and if I can open my laptop. Okay, so the first line in the puppet, second line in the puppet, agate gata sadvasaha. Basically, so the puppet and the verse itself, they talk about 3 main points here. First, the fear of death. The second, disconnect to connect. And the third topic that puppet and the verse emphasis in when to do that. So we'll try discussing each point. So second line of the text says that agate gata sadvasaha, that the fear of death is actually the fundamental fear of the existence. And Prabhupada talks in the beginning of the purport about people in general, where people are fearful of death, or probably they are not. So, we all know the pastime of Vasudeva and Devaki, when the prophecy happened, and Kamsa, and the prophecy it is said that, "Come, hopeful Kamsa, you are going to get killed by the 8th son of your daughter, your sister. How come you are so joyous of your marriage?" And the fear creeps in him. And the fear actually creeps in his mind, and the entire scene changes. So that means there is a fear of death. There is a fear of losing something. Now, trying to apply this in our present day in life, or a practical understanding, that who is fear from death? Or we can break the answer in 3 aspects. Prabhupada talks in the purport that the first answer could be that most people here in this world commonly are out of sight, out of mind of mentality. They know the death is coming, but they behave like it's verified. In Mahabharata there is a famous verse, ahani ahani bhutani gacchanta ihayamalayam shesha sthavaram icchanti kim ashraya ataparam. Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti ihayam alayam. So hundreds and thousands of living beings. So this verse was spoken by Yudhishthira Maharaj when he was asked a question by Yaksha. That what is the most amazing thing that you notice in this world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj in response recite this verse that hundreds and thousands of living entities, they are passing away, they are meeting death every moment, but the foolish living being, looking at them, think himself that it is never going to happen to them, and they behave like immortal beings. So, and everyone has to die, we all know that, but the one who is fully controlled under the material nature, or who thinks that who is independent, and he will never meet that, they will behave like that. And this is what the Prabhupada talking in the first few lines of the Purport. He gives an example of the scientist and philanthropist and statements and all that in future they can live, they think that they can live forever, and all the economic or the advancement that they try to make in this world is actually relevant to the body. All the innovation that happens to extend, that is only to make, either to make the life comfortable or to extend the duration of life. These are the basic two principles of the research that happens. And sometimes what happens is they get a wake-up call by losing someone who is very close to them. And or sometimes body gives them also sign. But the enjoying propensity in the living entities, I'm talking people in general, is so strong that it appears it's so strong that they miss the alarm call. They miss the alarm that Krishna is giving me the sign to focus on him. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually in this regard shares a beautiful bhajan which actually shares the stark reality of our human condition. Bhajan Udilo Aruno Pura Bhage. He says, Emana Durlabha Manavadeho. You have achieved such a rare human body. Paiya ki koro bhavana ke ho. You do not care of this gift. Ebe na bhajite Yashoda Suta. You remain not serving the darling son of Yashoda. Charame pori bolaje. And slowly fall through the last moment of your death. He further says, Udita tapana hoilo vashta. With every rising and setting of the sun, Dina geno boli hoi bebyasta. A day passes and is lost in a business in material life. And this, this portrays the scenario of a present life so perfectly. Like it's like showing a mirror. Tabe keno ebe alaso hoye. Then why do you remain idle? Nai bhajari dayaraje, and not serve the Lord of the heart. So the bhajan, I will recite the trance again. Emona durlabha manavadeho, paiya ki koro bhavana ke ho, ebena bhajite yasoda suta, charama pori bolaje, udita tapana hoilo ashta. Dina gelo boli hoi bebyasta, tebe keno ebe alasa hoi. Shri Radhagiri Govardhan Dhari ki. Na bhajita rudaya raje. So that means once we come into association of the devotees, once we start reading the scriptures, once we start understanding the philosophy a little bit, okay, there is a realization that I should focus, I should hear about Krishna, I should focus on my spiritual life. But this is the normal condition of this is the condition of a normal human life, that we spend day and night in thinking that, okay, I am busy with, being busy with your material life, or eating, sleeping, mating and defending. And not having a knowledge of Krishna, we think that what we are doing is correct, because I'm looking after my family nicely, I'm earning nicely. What's the other need? And then at the end of life, I have earned enough so that I can enjoy a little bit, and that's how the life ends. But when we read the scripture, when we hear things, it gives us the higher reality. It opens up completely new direction. It shifts our paradigm to see beyond this life, to see beyond our present body. So that is the one reason, is that most of the people here, it has the out of sight, out of mind mentality. The other reason that could be is the atheistic mentality, where people are not fearful of that. Why the atheistic mentality is why the atheistic people are not fearful of that? Because they are convinced that there is no reality beyond this life. They don't believe in the God, so they are convinced that there is no experience waiting for them beyond this life. So what they think is this life is all in all, and it's fine for them, because for them the chapter ends. And we can see the examples in our practical life also. I was listening to a lecture by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, and he was giving an example of his grandmother. So his grandmother was, of course, an old age, and she was at the deathbed, like in her late life, probably 80s. And Maharaj went to see him, and Maharaj said that my grandmother, she seemed perfectly okay, because she thinks she had a good life. There was no conception of God. What she thought is, okay, I have done my life well, because she was Westerner, so meat eating was part of the culture. But there was no reference to scripture, no reference to four regulative principle. They don't know that, what they have done, or what they're missing, or something or not. It is, according to them, the life is perfect. And we see such examples in our life also. Some older family members, grandfather or grandmother, generally those people who come from religious background, they are God conscious people in India. But then I have seen examples also where people are not so God conscious, and the thing is, when you try to go and talk to them about Krishna, or okay, now when you are 80 years old, read or chant or hear, they are not open to it, because their idea of atheistic mentality is so strong that you cannot preach to them. And in that case, what can we do? We pray for them that Krishna give them the intelligence, give them the strength, and probably a next life in which they can come close to you. And then another aspect, while people or of someone cannot be fearful of death, is a devotee. Devotee is someone who knows that there is a life beyond death, but at the same time they have acted in that manner. They have passed their life and feels protected by the God. And so Srila Prabhupada talks about that in the purport. He mentions the intelligent persons, they are not being attached to the body and ready to leave at any time, because death can come any time. And when we hear such statement, when we hear that, okay, they act in a certain way, the entire life, because they feel connection with the Lord, they have a complete faith and surrender unto the Lord. The first example that I could think of is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj had to go so many atrocities throughout his life, and the person that was putting him into difficulty is not someone from outside. He was his own father, and he was like, how 5-year-old child. but the complete conviction and surrender unto the God, he had been able to go through all. I mean, God has protected him. That's the bottom line. Parikshit Maharaj, we are talking about his example here. Anyway, he could cut off the detachment. Prabhupada uses the term Ashanga Sastrena. He could, cut off the detachment as soon as he found out that death is imminent in 7 days. He could do it because he has practiced spiritual life throughout his life. And I was reflecting on that point that, for example, if I am in place of Parikshit Maharaj, or if an ordinary person in a place of Parikshit Maharaj, what would I do? First I would try and counteract the curse, or at least I would try and extend the duration of life. No, please at least extend to a month. I have so many things to do. I have to wind up my family life, and would I be able to give up those attachments that easily? The first instant reaction I'm not talking about someone who is very highly elevated in consciousness, in general, will try to counteract the action. And then even if we have accepted, okay, that I have 7 days to live, the next question that comes, would I be able to detach? And as I said, it will be very hard. The detachment will come with the practice that one would have done throughout the life. And hence, we cannot leave it very last moment. Prabhupada, Sutta Goswami in the previous verse says that it is possible to achieve the perfection even in the moment, but it is very hard. And that is not the practice or of a procrastination that is being recommended. It is possible, but one has to be that pure to leave everything. And for people in general, it doesn't come without practice. So we have to practice throughout the life, starting from the point we come to know. So, and when I was thinking about the examples that who has shown the detachment. Of course, Prabhupada is the prime example. Prabhupada passed away in 1977, and when he was on a deathbed, he was in Vrindavan, and he was asked a question that, Prabhupada, do you have any unfulfilled desire? And Prabhupada in the answer said that, I have nothing to desire or hanker for. And why Prabhupada could say that? Because Prabhupada led a dedicated life in loving service to Krishna. And when when Krishna came to take him back, he was ready. So he was so death ready that when there was a time to leave, he was ready to depart. Now, if we rewind that a little bit and look at the time where Prabhupada was on a Jaladuta, he had heart attacks, and he was praying to Krishna in his diary, the Makine, that bhajan, that nachao, nachao, nachao se mate. I'm here, I'm going out to preach your message. But kastera putli rame, can't recall. Nachao, nachao. So I am like a puppet in your hand, and you make me dance as you wish. And then once Prabhupada has fulfilled the instruction of the spiritual master, and after that, Prabhupada was like, I'm ready, I'm death ready. So, there is so much learning from our spiritual master. And after Prabhupada, or whoever, if you look at our Guru Vrinda, Maharajas that I am aware who are passing, like in my, when I started listening and hearing about Kadam Kanan Maharaj, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he left in COVID. All those acharyas, when they left, their consciousnness was such, very high elevated consciousness. I remember seeing a video of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj, because I think his service was a deity worship. Even on the deathbed, he was performing arti. Something to aspire for. And when we talk about acharyas, we cannot forget our very own Sri Ram Vijay Prabhu. We went to see him not on the very last week, but the week before his departure, like that weekend. And though he was suffering so much, what we can see on his face is smile. He was happily cracking jokes, making fun of the treatment or these so-called medical treatment that are given these days, and how those things don't impact. He was talking about foods. Kaju Katri we talked about, one of the things that I remember. It's when I say Kaju Katri we talked about, it doesn't mean that he showed attachment towards the Kaju Katri, but he was so ready that it is going to happen. And that left a deep reflection, deep introspection, that when it comes to me, would I be that ready, or would I be suffering? Would I be crying in a pain that, oh, this is happening to me? Something to think about, something to reflect upon. And then because we are talking about the fear of death, again we come to Srīmad Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one of his bhajans says, Vrishabhanu pure janamalaibo yavata vivaha habe brajagopi bhava hoibe svabhava eno bhavana rohibe Vrishabhanu pure janamalaibo yavata vivaha habe. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur talking about his next life, that in next life I will take a birth in a Yavata, where Radharani's sasural, can't come up the Hindi word, where Radharani's in-laws place are, and I will serve there I will become a servant there of Srimati Radharani. So look at this consciousness. Where is the fear of death? He is planning his next life serving Srimati Radharani. I know these examples that I'm quoting is very esoteric or very high, but when we hear things like this, at least it brings us the standard, that what should we aspire for, what should we look for, instead of thinking of maintaining my present body happily. That will happen, because aging process, we don't have to take an effort. Today I am 40, tomorrow I'll be 41. I don't have to take an effort. But these things, to aspire, I think we need to know first what to aspire for. So we need to hear these things. And I found very fascinating when, Bhaktivinoda Thakur planning his next life, I'll serve Srimati Radharani Yavat, when she is there serving Krishna. Such a beautiful desire to meditate upon. So so in the beginning I mentioned that there are three aspects in this purport, in this verse. First is fear of death. Then the second is, then it brings actually us to disconnect from the reality in order to connect something higher. And how do we do that? So there is a bit of a funny story here. There was a group of farmers here, and they were nice, kind, farmer by quality, by nature, they are kind-hearted person. So they had farms, and there were monkeys who were destroying their farms and destroying their crops and everything. So tired of those monkeys, the farmers were thinking, how to deal with them without trying to hurt monkeys so much. And one very wise farmer, he came up with an idea that he got the coconut, cut the coconut only a little bit where a monkey's hand can go in, and then he put the banana in that hole and then hung the coconut on the tree. Smelling the banana, the monkey ran towards the tree, and with the desire to eat that banana so much, he puts the hand in the coconut, and then trying to take it out, his head gets stuck. He couldn't come out. And farmer sees that, and then he sees that, okay, this trick works. So then he puts more coconut with more banana, and all the monkeys, they were destroying the crop, they got stuck like that. So that monkey behavior is actually, very much reflecting our human tendency, that we know that we are here, we are entangled, but the desire or enjoying propensity is so much that we cannot come out of it. And yes, we cannot come out of it. And then Prabhupada talks about asanga sastrena spriha dehenu ye chatam. Basically, and then there is in the line the Prabhupada says that one has to only change the aspiration during the course of this present body. And for this, there is need for training in the current duration of living life. That means, again, as I said, we focus on connection. And when I talk about focus of connection, devotee's primary focus is not detaching from material activities. Devotee's primary focus is attaching to Krishna. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Param drashtva nivartante vishaya vinivartantam niraharasya dehina rasovrajam vishayani vinivartante niraharasya dehinam rasovrajam param drashtva nivartante. Param drashtva nivartante means once you experience the higher taste, you automatically lose the taste in the material enjoyment. Material enjoyment as in, again, eating, sleeping, mating and defending. So in this regard, actually, Kapil Dev, he also talks very nice to Mother, he gives very nice instruction to Mother Devhuti. Kapil Dev explains that in path of bhakti, the attachment to Krishna as the natural complement to his desires cannot be extinguished, but simply redirected to their original spiritual source, and one should therefore re-establish their loving service to Krishna. And then in Canto 3, there are verses from 27, Canto 3, I think chapter 25, from verses 20 to 27, that are very apt in attachment and of course detachment also. I'm just going to read the translation because I thought it's very nice to share. So I'll just read translations from verse 20 onwards. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of spiritual soul. But the same attachment, when applied to the self-realized souls, open the door of liberation. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scripture. In his all characteristics are sublime. Such a sadhu engages in a staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. Engage constantly in the chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with the thoughts of my pastime and activities. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of the great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to holy men, for these counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. In the association of pure devotees, in the association of pure devotees, the discussion of the pastime of activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. And by cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation. And thereafter, he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. The real devotion and devotional service begin. Thus, consciously engaged in devotional service in the association of the devotees, a person gains distaste in the sense gratification, both in this world and in the next. By constantly thinking about the activities of the Lord, the process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of the mystic power. when one is actually situated on the path of devotional service, he is able to control the mind. Thus, by not engaging in the service of modes of material nature, by developing Krishna consciousness, knowledge and renunciation, by practicing yoga, in which the mind is always fixed in devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one achieves mind association in this very life. For I am the Supreme Personality, the Absolute Truth. And this ends the translation. Then so Srila Prabhupada actually reminds us, give us the constant reminder through his purports, the futility of material enjoyment, along with the narration that he gives. And Srila Prabhupada actually explains so nicely in the purport that he just not only says that, oh, spiritual life is so nice and this is what you should aspire. He also shows the picture of material reality. So we can compare both and we can take an informed decision that, okay, this is what you have, this is what you can aspire, this is the path that I am giving to you. Now it's your choice. So so the Prabhupada actually gives everything so nicely, and this reminds me, Keshav Maharaj actually talks about different types of liberation, slightly just because we are talking about leaving the body. When we initially find about spiritual life, our first idea of practicing spirituality is to escape or to get out from the cycle of birth and death. That's the beginning of the understanding. Then you realize that no, spirituality or the bhakti is not only escaping the cycle of birth and death, but is actually the service of Krishna. So then you aspire to serve Krishna. Then as you practice more, the deeper realization comes, and then we realize that so once you know that there is, first is escape, then second you want to be with Krishna. Then okay, Krishna, take me to your abode. Let me be with you and serve there. And as you deepen the realization, as you deepen the understanding, then you realize that it actually, spirituality is not any geographical location on the higher planets. It is a state of consciousness. It is actually about serving Krishna regardless where you are. So first is escape, second is be with Krishna, third is it doesn't matter where Krishna puts me, and fourth is even higher, is if Krishna, if you want me to go to hell, let me put me there. And that is Prabhupada talking in, nachao, simante. You take me wherever you want, I will, if you want me to be so. And all these stages are very high and progressive in realization, but as I said, if we know, then we can aspire. If we don't know, then we remain ignorant, and then there is aspiration is something completely different. So then, because we were talking about disconnect in order to connect the higher reality, so the principle here is, of course, we all know Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means living your present material life, but with the consciousness to serve to Krishna. Sthane sthita shrutikadam tanuvan manubihi. Be where you are and serve Krishna from the point where you are. And what are the examples? Who have done that? Bhāgavatam again gives us the example of Amrish Maharaj. Amrish Maharaj, his mind was fixed in Krishna's lotus feet. Amrish Maharaj, he used his words to glorify the Lord. Amrish Maharaj, he used his hand to sweep the floor of the temple. His eyes actually beheld the lotus face of the Lord. His legs carried to the temple, and he lived in a palace, but he was more in a renounced state. So in this way, he used his entire body in serving Krishna. So then, okay, these examples, again, when I think of an example, I find an example from scripture, and then I think, oh, this is very high. What can I do practically? And Keshav Maharaj says something very nice practically in this regard, that disconnect to connect things. That means every year we should have a month to connect. And the example is, go on a pilgrimage, go in a dham and spend a time there. We are having at the end of the year, we are going for a yatra in Vrindavan and Jaipur. Then every week, every year a month, every month a week, spending time in doing service. Every week, spend a day in connecting, and every day spend at least an hour connecting Krishna. What is that at least an hour? Our chanting, doing our devotional services, coming to the temple, connecting with the deities, connecting with the devotees, listening to Bhagavatam. When I say listening to Bhagavatam, it reminds me of another incident. I was listening to class again by His Holiness Keshav Maharaj, and he shares his own personal example where he was in London, and Mangala Aarti and everything finished, and then it's a 7:30 time, and Keshav Maharaj putting it jokingly that it's the time where you have to decide, either I be in the class or spend some time in not material enjoyment, but do some Kama Mishra Bhakti also. So that means you go home, log in from the Zoom, at the same time open the laptop and do some work and respond some email. So why he said that? Because what happens many times that we don't give enough importance when Bhagavatam is being spoken. And I can relate this to myself as well. Every morning we have 6:30 to 7 Bhagavatam class. So, it starts my day very nicely, very beautifully. But because the time is such in the morning that I'm working in the kitchen at the same time listening. Of course, it is much, much better than not listening at all. But then the desire should be that I sit down with Bhagavatam in my hand and making notes. One day, probably that will also happen. And another thing that Keshav Maharaj shared in his class, that on the same day, when he was thinking, actually after finishing the morning program, after finishing Guru Puja, he was walking out from the temple, and there was some senior devotee. He asked the question that, Mataji, who is giving a class? Because he wanting to make a decision whether to sit in the class or to log in from Zoom. And Maharaj said that he was blasted. He's like, did you ask who dressed up the deities today? No, we don't. We go, we take the darshan, and we glorify the deities. So when we think that who is the speaker of a Bhagavatam, we try to think getting an entertainment from the speaker, because the way speaker present is the way the speaker says, because that's how we think we are better connected. No, but Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. It is glorification of Bhagavatam. So regardless who is on the Vyasasana, it is absolute. And we should connect. And that actually left realization with me also, because I also do that sometimes. Same applies to Kirtan also. When we hear, who is Kirtanya? I want to hear him. He or she is amazing Kirtanya. And of course that devotee is amazing Kirtanya, but the focus should be on the name. Focus should be not on who is singing. Madhava Prabhu, long time back when he was here, his kirtans are amazing. It feels that you are, he takes you to the spiritual world. And before he starts his kirtan, he said that when we are at the kirtan, we think that, oh, this kirtan is so nice, and it's so nice. So when we say the kirtan is so nice, we are again attaching that emotion with our satisfaction, our enjoyment. But the mood should be that I should chant in a way that pleases Krishna. So please chant with me for the pleasure of the Lord. Such such a high level of consciousness. And again, I'm sharing this because something that we can aspire, something I can aspire. This is all not for all of you, for me also, something we can aspire for, such a high level of consciousness. So then we were talking about connecting, and again, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is my favorite acharya this morning, because what I was trying to think, I was looking at Bhaktivinoda Thakur bhajans and I'm getting my answers for my class today. So the same bhajan that we sang, Udilo Aruna Purava Bhage, other stanzas in these were Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually shares this very nicely. If you would like to recite, we can do it together. We'll go one by one. Jivana anitya jahar sara. Jivana anitya jana sara. Tahe nana vida vipada bhara. Namashaya kori jatane tumi. Takaha panakaje. This means Jivana anitya jana hasara. This life is temporary. Tahe nana vidha vipada bhara, and full of various miseries. Namashraya kori jatane tumi, take shelter of holy name. Takaha apana kaje, as this is your only business. So only business is taking shelter of the holy name. Then in next stanza, he continues, Jivera kalyana sadhana kama. Jagate asiye madhura nama. Avidyati mira tapana rupe. Rida gagane biraje. The holy name has risen like the shining sun to penetrate the darkness of ignorance and bless everyone's heart. So again, take shelter of the holy name. Krishna nama sudha koriye pana. Jurao bhakti vinoda prana. Nama bina kicho nahi ko aro. Chauda bhuvana maje. He's glorifying the holy name so much. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name of Krishna. It has filled the soul of Sri Bhakti Vinoda Thakur. There is nothing but the name to be had in the 14 words. Chauda Bhuvana Maje. Such a beautiful bhajan by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Such a beautiful purport. Something to, again take home, think about and try to put into practice. So the purport Prabhupada says that the training can begin at any stage of life, even for a few seconds of that. And in the previous verses, he gave the example of Maharaj Khatamanga, where he just found about his death, I think a morat ago, yesterday or the day before. We said a morat is nearly 48 minutes. And in that 48 minutes, he was able to leave the heavenly planets, come to the earth and focus on Krishna. So he could achieve perfection in 48 minutes. It is possible. But the usual process is to get the training from the very beginning of life. Or we are already missed that part. Some of you probably already have started very early age. I can speak for myself again. When I started becoming sincere about services is actually when our dear Vallabhi left. You know, that's the time, like, no, you cannot be mucking around. You have to be serious. And in this regard, there is a nice verse in Srīmad Bhāgavatam which Prahlad Maharaj shares with his school friends, because he was preaching to his schoolmates also. He says that Kumara acharet pragno dharma bhagavatan iha durlabham manushan janma tad api adruvam arthatam. That means one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of the childhood. And we have this nice facility of coming to the temple here. When we come here on a Saturday, you know, there is a nice facility where children are also looked after. Simultaneously, when the spiritual discourse is going in here, there are devotees there out there in the different hall, in the main hall, not main hall, the multi-purpose hall. Devotees are actually training children to start their journey, spiritual journey from very early age of life. And they make it fun. It's not only learning shlokas, because children at very tender age, they have a propensity to play. We all have a propensity to enjoy and have fun, but do the transition from a personal to a Krishna. So instead of having them to separate, do the integration. So Prahlad Maharaj again says that human body is most rarely achieved. And although temporary, like other bodies, it is meaningful because in the human form, one can perform the devotional service. Even a single amount of a sincere devotional service can one give a complete perfection. This is the assurance that we are given. Time, a murat is enough. A single amount of what it requires is just the sincerity. And sincerity we lack. I'm not saying we lack, but because we are not used to it, our mind goes back to the old way of doing things or enjoying things. So we have to, like in the analogy that I shared the other day in the class, we have to be like the expert pilot. We have to keep bringing our mind, our desires back to Krishna. So what do we do? How do we put this into practice? We can start at any point, and what it needs is sincerity. We require, of course, desire, sincerity, and a prayer. Prayer to continue our spiritual journey. Prayer to strengthen our desires, because in the beginning it is weak, and as we progress, we get the realization, and then it becomes stronger. And Amrendra Prabhu in one of his class said that, of course, so this is all personal, but when we go to Krishna, it is not only us alone who will be serving them, we'll be serving with the other devotees as well. So that means we have to develop a consciousness where we start seeing Krishna in everyone. And he said this thing in a class, that those devotees whom we are serving with here, it is very much likely that when we go up there with Krishna, we'll be serving with them there also. So it's very important that we get along. I mean, we get along is, I'll put it nicely, that it's very important that we see every devotee that we work with as they are part and parcel of Krishna. And again I'm speaking about myself. When sometimes we are preparing for a devotional service or preparing for any service, I get to so much of a point that okay, this needs to be done, this is what it is said, this is how it should be done, and I forget the point that, oh no, I am here dealing with the devotees also. So in order to perform a devotional service, sometimes I end up being an impersonalist, which means I lose the very point of devotional service. Devotional service is not something that you do without heart. It is bhakti is matter of heart. It is a matter of love, and you cannot do without putting a heart in, without putting your heart into. So and Keshav Maharaj in this regard actually says something very nicely. I would share that, and then we'll stop for any questions, correction. So Keshav Maharaj says that when time runs out, I won't carry my prayer beads with me, but I will take the genuine taste. For genuine taste I have for chanting the name of the God. I won't carry my library with me, but I will take the genuine realization that I have awakened within the heart from all that reading. I won't carry any positions or titles with me, but I will take the genuine devotional attitude that I have developed. Our associates won't travel us, but the heartfelt bonds based on the self-led service which will never be severed. And on the bankside of Ganga, I identified the daily question that I need to ask myself: what did I do to invest in my eternal asset? Such a nice thing to meditate upon. What did I do today to invest in my eternal asset? So when I am leaving, what am I taking with me? And it's 9 o'clock. I will stop here. If anyone has any comment, questions, suggestions, please feel free to comment.
There's also a nice bhajan that Bhuliya Tumhare, which also shows our life in sequence as to how when we enter the womb of the mother. Bhuliya Tumhare samsare asiya ye nana vid vyatha tumhara charane asiya che ami bodhi bodhukhe katha. He says the jiva, he says, I have forgotten you, that's why I've come to this material world. Now, after facing so many miseries, I've come to your charan. And what I'm doing is, I'm telling you the story of my Vyatha. Then it starts. Janani jatare jilama jatona vishama bandhana pashe. In Janani jatara, the womb of the mother, I was, like in Vishama bandhana, was completely bound. And there I prayed to you that, I will not forget you anymore. But the moment I come out, then, the sneha of the parents, the friends, the aspirations of the uni life and the money and all that, it made me forget everything. And then it starts how the school life, what he does, then higher education, then going for money, and at the end, the davasta comes, the old age comes, and I have not done anything. And then, the next gati, what is going to be my next gati? Very nice bhajan, he also sings, very, very beautiful bhajan.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, very nice bhajan, yes. Bhaktivinoda Thakur bhajans are so much full of devotion, and some of them I could sing and I could memorize some of them. There's still a lot to learn, but yes, very nice. Thank you for sharing that, Prabhu. Anyone else? Okay. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, शिला प्रभुपाद की,